we recording?
Yes, I'm going to use this as the intro to the video.
Did you say yes?
Are you leaving?
Yes.
Or are you working here?
We're recording? I need to hang up and try this again. It's not a live stream, right?
So, how do you teach vibrato? Ooh, this is my question. I'm like, ooh, this is something I want to know. Oh, because it's my question. How do you teach vibrato, and what's your opinion on the voluntary versus involuntary debate? Because I got in trouble on my channel.
Did you now? Why?
I did, because I feel like in my body personally, it's not completely involuntary. And there are some people that say that it should just happen, you know? But I have to like flip a switch. And I mean, once I decide to do vibrato, it's not like I'm oscillating my voice intentionally, but I have to decide to flip that switch to engage vibrato. So how do you kind of experience vibrato, and how do you describe it to someone that's never done it before?
Yeah, this is so interesting because it just shows you how broad the world of voice is, and how somebody like you who has like so much background, your experience is not wrong. Like, your experience is not wrong. So nobody can tell you that you don't turn your vibrato on or off. Like, that is, you know, and I think we need to be more open-minded as professionals and in the voice world to understand the sensations happening in someone else's body are not the same as our own. And there's no one, you know what I mean? So there are mechanical, like, this is not to say that I haven't heard someone where I'm like, oh, wow, that vibrato feels very, forced and tight and manufactured. And then there are people I hear vibrato, I'm like, oh, that's so nice and relaxed and that's beautiful, right? And then there's straight tone. But, you know, I think to answer this question, you kind of have to ask the question of what is happening when we have a vibrato. So what is it? Well, the pitch is moving up and down, right? Like if this is your nose.
It looks like you have a cat tail. Oh my God.
I have a cat behind me. Sorry, guys.
Look, there it is again. The way that you're sitting, I just saw you and you had a tail popping up behind you. It was the funniest thing.
Yeah. Excuse me, I'm busy. Mo. This is my sweet little cat. He's like such a sweetheart, but.
Sorry, I'm like, squirrel.
No, he's just like my cats will not. It's like I did this while my kids were at school, and yet here my cat's now purring up on me. So that, excuse my kitty. He's so sweet. Okay. So to understand that vibrato, that pitch is moving very quickly in a regular pattern, like up and down. So your vocal folds are going faster and slower and faster and slower and faster. And it's to think that we are moving it for every oscillation or every pitch up and down. That's not happening. It's too fast. There's too much going on. So there is sort of this trigger we have to, trigger in our body that we have to turn on and then let it happen naturally. So with vibrato, there's still a lot of scientific study going on to truly understand what is happening and why some people get it quicker than others. And, I've heard people talk about it like a tremor, right? So if you hold your hand out straight, you're not actually holding, like, there's nothing straight happening in our body anywhere. When I'm holding my hand here, there's minor movements that you're not like seeing, right? So our body is never straight. So the argument is, well, straight tone is never really truly straight tone. It's just kind of pretty close the whole time, enough so that we perceive it as a straight tone. So a lot of people, some people that I've studied with believe that tremor is really sort of like controlling that tremor and starting to allow it to move in and, oscillate a little bit up and down. Now the question is why do some people have it and other people don't? Or why do some people get it quicker? Or why does it come to some people? How do people train it? And why do some people feel like they can't get it? Well, I've generally found that if you have a lot of muscular tension or too much TA engagement in one area of your voice, or, you're just not quite lining up acoustically in your voice to really get like a lot of, energy moving back and forth, it can be whenever there's a little bit of tenseness or a little bit of overengagement of certain muscles. It doesn't mean you're singing wrong. It just means that you're still navigating how to balance your whole vocal tract and all the vocal muscles and how they work together. That tightness can sometimes prevent that really smooth, easy vibrato from kicking in. And I will say, like, for me personally, it took me till my 20s to really master my vibrato. It took me a long time. So that is one thing. So in order to find vibrato, I don't ever teach vibrato. Like, I don't say to a student, come in and I'm going to give you vibrato in the next 2 weeks. I say, let's lay a healthy foundation and bring some awareness to when it's starting to show up, because you'll hear it in different parts of your voice. If you're exercising different parts of your range in different vowel shapes, you're going to start to hear it creep in a little here and there. And it might not be super consistent right off the bat, but you start to hear it. Then it's like honing that movement, if that makes sense. So you want to lay that foundation of nice, easy balance, not a lot of tenseness, throughout your voice, muscles are balanced and easy. And that's a big piece of it. Breath support, keeping that even, all of that really goes into preparing a nice place for that vibrato to start to show up. I also believe that we match what we hear. And if you grow up in an environment where you're hearing it a lot, if you're hearing singers with vibrato a lot, if you listen to a lot of singers with vibrato, you're going to find that generally a lot sooner than somebody who listens to a lot of music or in an environment where there's a lot more straight tone. So there's different styles of music that use it a lot more. And depending on how you are raised and what you hear, we model as humans. So it's almost like it comes more naturally. So people are like, well, I had vibrato at 6 or 3, so, it's so dumb that you don't have it yet. You must not be singing right. And it's like, well, no, there's a lot of variables here,
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I will say, too, what you're saying about turning it on and off, that makes total sense. Like, for me, that's exactly how I feel. Like, I've worked it to a point where it's a conscious decision. Do I want vibrato there? Do I not want vibrato there? Do I want straight tone into vibrato? So I do trigger that on. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I think what you said about exposure and modeling is like really, really important, because I feel like there was so much less vibrato happening in the zeitgeist when we were young. And now I have a lot of students come in that they're singing in a much more stylized way, much younger, because that's what they're hearing. And they're hearing all these extreme kind of ways of singing. And so it's like hard for them to dial it back and sing in a straight tone. I find that problem just as many times as I find people that can't do vibrato. They can't sing in a straight tone. They can't turn it off.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great answer. Well, thank you so much. This is so educational. This one comes from No Name Unicorn, which I love. I think that's the best moniker ever. So it says, what was personally your biggest struggle in your own singing journey?
Oh my gosh.
This is the deep existential question to end on.
I know. Well, I mean, I've had I think it's a journey, right? So you have different challenges at different stages of your life. I think for me, if I look at, I could talk about little things like, it feeling like it took me longer to find my vibrato and really like hone that in, and feeling like sort of like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have it? I can talk about the concept of like not loving my upper range and those high notes, and feeling like I felt good low. So why would I ever have to sing up there? Like, leave me alone. I don't want to sing those high notes. I could talk about, belting and feeling like I had a roof. I could only get to a certain note at certain time. And in general, all of those things were pieces of my journey that I worked through. And the more I learned about voice and the more I worked with amazing mentors and coaches, I was able to explore that. And also students, the more I taught, the more I learned about my own voice. Those things, that's sort of part of what helped me get through all of that. And I think the biggest hump I overcame was growing up, I didn't have any great experiences in voice lessons, which is ironic given my career and what I do now. But like, I didn't have I didn't like any of the one-on-one lessons I had as a child. And I felt like it was like a square peg in a round hole. Like they were trying to make me sound like I didn't want to sound. They were trying to take away my uniqueness. They were trying to make me sing an aria when I wanted to sing, Billie Holiday. They were trying to change my voice. I didn't want that. And so I rejected training and vocal training for the first 15 years of my life. Like even at Yale, like I would take a few lessons here and there in the music department. Cause you and I we did not have music degrees. I have a political science degree from Yale, using that real well right now. I should have gotten a degree, but all the aside, like I would go to the music school and I would take a lesson or two. And I never felt like it clicked for me. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I just was like, training must not be for me. Training must not be for contemporary singers. Training must not be like I just felt like there was a wall there. And it took me I just kept trying to find more people like over the years. And it wasn't until I was living in New York that I was able to finally crack through and find people that spoke my language, that were that were student centered and were able to like meet me where I was and not try to change my voice, but try to help me understand and grow from there, that I was able to really like break through. And that I would say would be the most transformative challenge I overcame, because that changed the way I view my voice and opened all the doors. So it really wasn't that training was bad or training wasn't for me. It was just that I hadn't found the right style of teacher and the right teacher yet. So waiting until you find someone, continuing to try like that truly transformed my voice and my life.
Wow, that's a really powerful answer. You know, it reminds me of become the change you want to see in the world. I mean, you were looking for this great mentor, and now you provide that to so many people. And I think you really see the individual, meet them where they're at, and you don't try to change them. You try to give them their best voice. So I think that's really beautiful.